Welcome. Welcome to the Vanguards for bringing hope to housing. This is session 2 of a 4-part series created primarily for the Vanguard members. But this presentation will be available online through the United Way website, so available to others. The Vanguard Group, just a tad of history, the Vanguard Group was founded in 1987 by dear Arnie Cohen and Jim Risk and Chuck Wise as a way for people in the community to be even more generous in their gift giving. And certainly that has been a very successful program. And all of us are so grateful for those of you who participate in the Vanguard program with your giving. You certainly have impact on the quality of life in our community. Well, I'm Betty Nelson, and I will serve as the moderator today. I'm a Purdue retiree from student life, and I proudly served as the campus chair a while back. And I must say that we exceeded our goal very nicely and are quite proud of that. Purdue always steps up and does such a good job, makes a difference in the community. Well, this is the second program in the series of 4. The first last week included Richard Kuhn and the science of the COVID virus. And then following this presentation, the next 2, one will be on basic needs, including food security, mental health, and the 4th one, public services, and it'll include representatives from government, school corporations, and law enforcement. So hope you will join us. Hope you will find them very valuable. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the focus of today's presentation is the status of housing in the greater Lafayette community, a hot topic. I will give just brief introductions to this powerhouse panel, and then we will move to Q&A, and we'll wrap up around 5 o'clock. But I must mention something that I think is remarkable. These 3 individuals who are presenting with us today represent more than 80 years in supportive housing services. You can't beat that for experience and having seen almost everything and having a real feel for what where the community is and what we need. It's an honor to have all 3 of them with us this afternoon. So Jennifer Layton, Marie Morse, Adam Murphy are the 3 stars of our show today to give us the skinny on what's happening in their areas. We'll start with Jennifer, 2 or 3 minutes about what she does, move to Marie, and then to Adam, and then back to me, and we will do some Q&A work. So Jennifer, you're on.
Thank you so much, Betty, though I am kind of choking after the whole over 80 years thing, because I certainly, wow, that's a long time. But I have worked with Adam and Marie for many, many years. So I appreciate that it's the 3 of us on this call. So as Betty mentioned, I am the president CEO of LTHC Homeless Services. I have been with the agency for over 26 years now. And we help people who are experiencing homelessness in Tippecanoe County. As many of you probably know, because I've kind of been around for a bit, we do a lot of really great things here. But we have a focus, and our mission is to help people who are experiencing homelessness. So this is for people that perhaps they have some chronic health challenges. Maybe it's just an economic reason. Maybe they've got some mental health issues, or maybe it's just because they're not able to afford their housing. We really made kind of a robust system for ways people can enter our coordinated entry system, and we can do assessments on all folks and provide diversion techniques for them to remain housed, or we help people once they are actually literally experiencing homelessness. And we do that by several different programs that we provide. We have programs specifically for homeless families, homeless individuals, and our homeless veterans. We have housing. We have 99 units of housing that we own and operate. We also have at any time around 40 to 50 different people that we are providing rapid rehousing for, which means we're paying for them to be in rental housing with a landlord. And then we're also the proud owners of the Engagement Center, which is the new facility located on 12th and 13th between Union and Salem. It's been a little bit of a hot topic here the last couple of days that we can touch on, but and here we operate a 24/7 operation where we are literally helping hundreds and hundreds of people. So we do great things here. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you very much. It's you feel like you're the center of the universe when you're in a place where you are. So thank you. Marie.
Hi, I'm Marie Morris. I'm the Executive Director for Homestead CS, and I'm glad Jennifer mentioned how long she's been there because I've been here over 35 years. So I was thinking, gosh, I did that almost whole 80 by myself. But we are Lafayette Neighborhood Housing Services doing business as Homestead CS. And a lot of people don't seem to know us. We help over 1,000 families, a year. We help with financial education. We help with pre-purchase counseling. But lately, our main focuses have been around preventing homelessness so that Jennifer's not so busy. We do a lot of foreclosure prevention. We did a lot in the last crisis. It slowed down a little bit. Now it's certainly picked back up. And recently we have taken on rental assistance. So we're helping families below 50% of the median income to pay their arrearage that they have on their balances from COVID. It's a program through the state. We just sent out our first checks, I think, last week. So we are actually paying landlords because, we understand that it's not just the tenants struggling to stay in their apartments, but landlords are also struggling to make, the obligations that they have. So I love that we keep extending the eviction moratorium, but I really love that there's some money available to help both the tenant and the landlord because, we need to keep everybody in our community secured and not have to go through bankruptcy or get evicted. And so that's what we're working on mostly. We also, at the request of our clients, started a small dollar loan program where we partner with area employers and offer small dollar loans to their employees. Up to $1,000, and we did that to take a stand against expensive payday lending, which in our state they can charge 391%. And so if families are paying that kind of interest rate on a loan, then that puts their housing in danger once again. So we started that a couple years ago and maybe have 25 employers that help their employees with that. And we're always looking for more. So those are the things that we do. We sort of help the people that are usually working, that do have housing, but need to be able to keep it. And that's really important in our community, especially when you're talking about a health crisis where people need to not be out on the street.
So COVID has really added a very substantial layer of activity for you, Marie. Thank you.
It has, certainly. Thank you. It's swamped here.
Adam.
Yes, my name is Adam Murphy. I'm the homeless and community outreach person for the city of Lafayette, Indiana. And my main function is to serve as administrator for a program called Shelter Plus Care, which provides rental assistance for persons that are chronically homeless by the HUD definition with a coexisting mental illness, substance abuse problem, and or HIV/AIDS. And so that's the primary function that that I serve along with the state grant that provides the funding for it. And of course, that program's been full. And when we have an opening, that gets filled rather quickly. But it's actually a smaller program than the work that Jennifer does at LTHC. And I I guess if we were to stack the years together, I'm a bit of the new kid on the block. I've only been working in this sector for 20 years, so I've got a lot to learn. The other parts of my work, though, revolve around the Homeless Prevention and Intervention Network, which is the collaborative networking team that monthly meets to talk about affordable housing issues. Both Maria and Jennifer are active participants in that as well. And so we use that forum to try to strategize together on how to handle affordable housing issues. 30 plus agencies or so are tuned into that particular group. Also, as a member of the Economic Development Department, there are neighborhood planning issues that we address here, as well as housing issues, all sorts of subpopulations that need different support from the city in terms of getting funding or whatnot. That tends to come through our office. And then lately, with COVID-19, we've been working heavily with the Housing Instability Hotline that the United Way administers, trying to get navigators trained on how to answer questions in a very confusing environment where there is a lot of need, but also a lot of resources. And so people need help making the connection with where the resources are that fits their particular need. And then also with the Safe Recovery site that the state of Indiana has implemented that helps house people that need to quarantine or are homeless and COVID positive, just trying to coordinate that with the health department locally to get people safely housed that have no other place to quarantine. So that's a bit about my role with affordable housing locally.
Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate your mentioning the Prevention and Intervention Network. I think oftentimes people want to know, how do you all communicate, and are you serving the same people? Are they just kind of moving around the community? Talk a little bit, one or all of you, about that network and how that functions and how you do kind of focus your efforts so that you aren't just being redundant with individuals. Who wants to step in?
I can't say that we're never redundant with individuals, but what I can say is that we work pretty hard at trying to find the different parts of the continuum that aren't filled in. And so, Marie's helping a homeowner, Jennifer's helping someone that is homeless. There's others that will provide direct mental illness services or recovery services for substance use. All along the spectrum of whatever someone is encountering, there's usually a provider or two that can address a situation. And so our network allows us to strategize and point out where we need a little bit more help. We're also tuned into different databases and information sources that help us to make sure that when we talk to someone, we know where else they are engaged. And typically at our meetings, it's more about kind of the general temperature, the general atmosphere. What is it we need to do different, or what do we need to strategize on to just be better at what we do? And so obviously this year we just talked a lot about COVID-19, which wasn't exactly on the docket for this year, but that's where we're at. But in years past, it's been other things. In 2012, for example, we came up with a plan on how to deal with chronic homelessness. And so that was a lot of work and effort to do that together. And in the past, we've worked on other things such as the 2008 housing crisis. So that's one of the platforms that we use to coordinate.
Sounds very important to do that. Such a complex scene. Jennifer or Marie, anything you would like to add to that?
Well, I would add that one of the things HPIN does also is help us not all do the same thing. We try really hard to, as Adam said, fill the gaps in what's missing, and we all work together really well. But one of the other things it does for us is that Adam mentioned about there were quite a bit of resources. There are quite a bit of resources available, but unfortunately, they come with a lot of rules, and you have to really dig to figure out which resource a particular person can qualify for. And, that makes it really difficult sometimes for all of us to figure out, how do we help this person? And, they didn't exactly, have this check mark on this piece of paper that we need to have, and that's kind of frustrating. And so, HPIN kind of helps us do that. I can't help this person because of this one little thing that they have, but maybe someone else has funds that can.
Jennifer, anything?
And I think I just want to jump on the collaborative partnerships. So they both have kind of touched on it, but the fact that each one of us has a niche and we all have our separate programs, but we have so many partners within the community of social service agencies that are willing and interested in jumping in and providing services and talking about what are the gaps, what are the needs, how can we help? Like it's camaraderie is what it is. And so there's just a group of people that that maybe when the going gets a little rough, that you can be real with them, and because they all do believe in human dignity and that we're all here to do the work to help real people that need our help. So it's a good group.
One of the questions that was submitted, I think maybe with the registration, but a question about how does Greater Lafayette compare with other similar kinds of cities, the services that are provided, the needs that are available. How do we look comparing us across the country?
Well, I know that on a statewide level, I'm always told that the groups in Lafayette partner way better than any other area in the state. There are a lot of places where not-for-profits kind of fight among each other, or, don't really understand where they are in the scheme of the whole housing issue. And so I think we're very lucky in Lafayette that we have that. I think that we're also very lucky in Lafayette that we do have people that step up to the plate when we need them. And I don't think that's true everywhere. And I don't know, Jen and Adam might have something more.
Yeah, sorry. I'm jumping in, Adam. Sorry. So I would just say that for people who are experiencing homelessness, nationally, housing is a crisis. Like, people are not able to afford housing. So we are in the midst of a homelessness crisis even before COVID. Mm-hmm. Now, if there was a silver lining out of COVID, I would say the silver lining for us would be that now people have the attention of people that are experiencing homelessness. Like, it's risen to a thing that people are now concerned about, those homeless people. And so when we think about what do we do here, I then want to say that on behalf of our community, we are on the cutting edge of homeless services. And so while I appreciate that perhaps people aren't as educated about some of these things than others, we really do have great things that are happening. This engagement center, Adam alluded to our 2012 strategic planning process, and that all came from this engagement center development, creating a one location for people who are experiencing homelessness to have their needs met, and having partnerships on site, healthcare on site, like that all came from there. And so these are really innovative projects where, this Friday I have folks from the city of Indianapolis, the deputy mayor is actually coming here to see this project. So we do really cool things here. So we should be proud.
Yeah, and I think what I would add to all of that, which I completely agree with, is that that's not saying that we're innovative. That's not just empty talk. I mean, all three of us have been to other communities. We've talked to our peers in other parts of Indiana, and it is true that the best practices that people talk about, many, if not most of them, you'll find in Lafayette in one way or another. Every community is very different, and so if you go to Bloomington, you hear about a different mix of issues. For example, I believe that they have a far greater family homelessness problem than we do. Not that we don't have a problem. We have things here as well that we're trying to address, but every community is going to be different and approaching it in a different way. But by and large, you're just going to find the innovative practices here already being implemented. One thing that we tend to say about Lafayette, which is true, is we're probably large enough to have big city problems, but as a community, we're small enough that we can actually do things about them. And so when we have issues come up, usually there's a strategy session around it, or there's several of us working on it. And, I find right now it escapes me thinking of any exception to that rule.
In thinking about this program today, I went back and looked at some of the results that came out of that 2012 project, and that was very substantial. People always worry that you have a big project like that and you get people involved and you come up with a list of things you need to do to make this utopia, and then nobody goes back and looks at it and does an assessment. How do we in this community continue to capitalize on the work that you did then?
You know what, Betty? I'll start with that one, because that was the Solutions Beyond Shelter project, and really that was not only the United Way was part of this effort, but also the cities of Lafayette, West Lafayette, and the county. And that was a very interesting time in our community when we could really sit down across the tables and really talk about organizations and what they did and how they worked. We talked with clients, we talked with organizations and churches and community members and religious leaders, across the board. And so after that was finished, the United Way, thankfully, kind of tagged LTU, maybe thankfully, I don't know, depends on what day it is. So they tagged LTHC to sort of lead the effort. And it was really our privilege, because part of what we do, our mission is to end homelessness. And so the Solutions Beyond Shelter, really the action plan, was all regarding ending homelessness. And so it has allowed us to be very innovative in our solutions and what we can do, and adding resources. And that is a nice thing when you have a community strategic plan that's sitting there next to you, when you are talking about how you want to do things differently. Back to what we've done in our community, we have national attention about what we're doing here. I don't know if many of you know, but LTHC was awarded funding from my best friend, Jeff Bezos at Amazon. That would have been in the fall. I do get some interesting email conversations from the executive director, CEO of the National Alliance to End Homelessness. She follows us. She sees what we're doing. It's a thing, and we really are doing it. And when you have a strategic plan and you make sure that somebody moves the plan, because I clearly have a lot of cabinetry, so I can put things in a cabinet. But when you actually use it with action steps, that's what makes a difference. So that really, United Way was all part of that conversation. So we thank United Way.
Betty, the other thing I would add there is when we look at the point in time numbers, which show us the number of homeless, and then some of the categories like chronically homeless and veteran homeless, and those that are sleeping outside, up until 2012, 2013, when the plan was created and initiated, you saw everything headed north on those numbers. And then year after year, we've seen a decline in each of those areas, because those strategies that we've implemented, many of them are working. And so there is a way, I think, to follow up with that is, continue doing the things that are working, but we're always coming up with new things to kind of flesh out that strategy even more. And that's just in the realm of homelessness. And I was also thinking about, we have other problems in our community, like, Marie and Homestead have tackled the issue of payday lending. And so, there's a direct effort to try to mitigate some of those issues. You kind of look across the board when it comes to things that affect low-income families. If there's not a plan, there's an initiative somewhere addressing nearly everything you can think of.
And I will say, part of ending homelessness is preventing it in the first place. And so, we need to really, sometimes I think that gets lost in it, that, there are so many families right on the edge, and it's more economical for the community to keep them in the home they have, not to mention morally and ethically correct. So, we really need to focus some on that too, I think, and I think this is all kind of bringing a good thing about COVID. It is bringing this to people's attention. So I think this is the time to talk about things like that.
You had mentioned the payday loan issue.
Yes.
Marie, is that something that will come before the legislature again?
I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I actually have a conversation with federal tomorrow, no, Friday, I think it is, with Representative Bard. There's both state legislation and federal legislation trying to get the interest rates down to 36%. There is for veterans, that is the highest they can go. And so there is some example that can be done. And of course, we have been fighting that at the legislative level for a couple years now with, I am also a member of the Indiana Asset and Opportunity Network. I'm on that steering committee. And so that group has taken a big stand against it. My board has taken a stand against it, not only putting our money where our mouth is in this new program, but also, taking a stand against it and making sure our legislators know what it's doing to our families. And so we are hoping that it shows up again. It gets through committees sometimes, never in our favor usually, because quite honestly, we don't have the lobbying money that the payday lenders have. And, that's a big thing. So it's a grassroots effort to get it stopped. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau on a national level under President Obama was going to put some restrictions in line on a federal level, but those have gone away now. Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to at least get that to be attention again. There's also an issue now where a payday lender could partner with a bank, and the OCC is very much for this on the national banks, where then the bank can loan at this huge amount and then immediately sell it to the payday lender. And I think that's just, that's not transparent at all. Our families don't know who they're really dealing with. And yes. So we've written letters against that. And, just to let people know what that's doing to the real people that in our community. And so anyone that wants to, talk to their legislators about that, I'm happy to tell them what it's doing to our families. As I said, they came in and asked us, we have to do, you have to help us because we, thank you for saving our home, but now my car's broke. Now I have this medical bill and, my credit really took a hit, and it's not economical for banks to loan that kind of money. So they partner with us to do it.
When you state that percentage, it's really kind of shocking.
391% APR. Under our loan, our loan is at 18%, the APR is right at under 25. So you would pay us back at the end of the year less than you would pay back a payday lender in 2 weeks. So, plus we report to the credit bureau, which the payday lenders don't. So it's not helping anybody at all. And,
well, it is helping somebody.
It's helping someone. There's maybe 4 people in the whole nation, apparently, that it helps. And, and they as far as we can tell, there's really only 4 owners of all these many named payday lenders. But, yeah. And that money leaves the community too, whereas our money stays right here and goes into our program. So, and we offer finance and United Way certainly helped us with that program. And, we offer education, financial education around that. So people understand why that's bad for them, because, people are desperate in these times. They'll just take anything they can get to save their home or save, or pay a medical bill. If their children's sick, you kind of do what you have to do. So I understand that. And we're trying to help them learn different ways to do that.
A different question, and Jennifer, I think this probably is most relevant to you, the CDC's moratorium. Can you talk about that and what impact that has in our community?
I certainly can, Betty. So, when COVID, when this all started, we went under federal moratorium starting in March. And so that was all lifted. So for rental history. So for people that were renters, there was an eviction moratorium that said that landlords were not able to evict someone just because they were not able to pay their rent. And so that moratorium lasted throughout the end of August, and then, or middle of August 14th, 15th. What was it, Adam? I forget.
It was the 14th, I believe.
And the federal one was through the end of August.
and for federal programs. And so then on September 4th, the CDC came out, kind of shocked everyone. I started hearing chatter a couple days before the CDC came out, and they too did an additional eviction moratorium for people that are not able to pay their rent. And that is throughout the end of the year. And so that's really interesting, because we clearly know that people who are living in poverty, those that are low income, housing is their most expensive expense, right? Like it's very expensive for people to be able to sustain their housing. And so when they have folks that that are not able to pay their rent, they have lost their jobs. A lot of these folks are working in the service industry. Yeah. And so we were desperate to make sure people could sustain the housing. Like Marie said, it's much less expensive for us to prevent homelessness than for us to rehouse someone once they have an eviction and are actually experiencing homelessness. So financially, it makes sense. And of course, just as human beings, it makes sense that we want to keep people in their homes. So the CDC moratorium is interesting. There's a lot of gray areas, which we appreciate. So you can tell it didn't come from HUD, who's always usually crystal clear in all their criteria and their boxes that need checked, as Marie alluded to earlier. And so it looks like you just need to kind of fill out a declaration form and provide it to your landlord. So it'll be interesting to see what the judges do on their side of things for evictions, but that's been very helpful.
And I will say, I know at least one case, and I unfortunately don't know which judge it was, but with our rental assistance that we have, it's taken a minute to figure out what HUD wants us to do with that money. And so we got the money in July. We gave our first checks out last week. Well, during that short time period where you could go to evictions, the tenant went to the judge and said, I'm working with Homestead to get money. And he said, well, the landlord, you guys need to continue to work with that. And they did not evict them. So that was some good news. And so this extension till the 31st of December is great news to give us more time. And there's also a settlement conference that people can request to try to work something out before going to court. And that's free to the tenant. So that's a really great thing that our state has done too.
That is super helpful to hear, Marie, because on the flip side, we hear about landlords that are not interested in participating in any programs, that they are very much more interested in evicting their tenants and they don't want to do any paperwork. And so that's some light in the darkness. So I thank you.
It is light. And I think when the landlords realize they may not get to evict till the end of December, they might decide, well, maybe I will sign that paper.
Yeah.
And I understand their viewpoint. As I said from the beginning, they have bills too that they have to pay. It's the whole community that's affected by this. So,
Adam, how does all of this affect the callers who come in on the hotline? How do you keep those navigators informed, because the scene changes almost every day?
It's true, it does. And we have what we call a decision tree, which kind of runs through how a caller might call in. And if it's COVID-19 related, then you do this. And then if the answer to that question is you do that. And so this tree has gotten crowded and longer, and the text has gotten smaller and smaller so we can fit it into one page. And I believe we're almost at version 20 of that decision tree since we first published it. And so it has been complicated, but that really illustrates the need for navigators, because as confusing as it was for practitioners, imagine someone trying to get assistance, particularly people trying to get assistance for the first time. And so that has been difficult. I will say, though, that the system, we've seen a lot of examples of the system, or people and landlords and parts of the system trying to accommodate and give more time, a little bit more grace. But what has been difficult is landlords that haven't been able to evict for a while, that still had their own payments to make and their own bills to pay. There is the law, there is the contracts that you signed. And so everyone's kind of put in a difficult position. I would say by and large, though, based on the number of evictions that we've seen and the amount of people asking for help, our community has proven pretty resilient. But if you're in the thick of it and you're the one that is being threatened with eviction, there's just a lot of fear and concern. And so the number one thing is that on that call line is just to provide the hope, kind of lay it out. Look, this is what's going to happen when you get the letter from the court. That's what you need to do here, and just trying to create a pathway through it all, and then get them to the agencies that really can help, for sure. So the Navigators have been, I think, important for the information that they've provided, but also the hope that they've given that there is a way to get through this particular situation.
Well, you need to buy pizza for that group periodically, Adam. That is really a tough role to be in.
Well, they're going to like you. Yeah. We'll see what we can do to sweeten the pot for those guys.
Just never know what the next call is going to be. That's
the truth.
Not hard. Another question that somebody submitted is, what is the status of evictions in the Lafayette area right now? Any way to summarize that?
Well, as far as I know, the evictions are on hold right now. The state did come down, and I think Adam probably has talked to a judge since I have, so we'll let him state. But I don't know how long it's going to stand, but I think it's standing right now. So, Adam, what are the judges telling you?
Well, and I've had a lot of conversation with the judges. We do have one of the magistrate Moore on the call, but I think it's more the issue of we could have seen a lot more evictions that we have seen, I guess, so far. So there's that sense that it's not as bad as we had feared, but it's bad enough, especially if you're the one being evicted. But I think some of that is because of the early work all of us have done to get in touch with people, to ask for the help early. Don't wait until the moratorium's over. If you're in foreclosure, talk to the bank, talk to Homestead. All of those all that work we did before the moratoriums ended, I think flattened the curve, if you will, not so much on COVID-19, but on evictions. But a landlord can still file an eviction, and it's up to the tenant to stop or pause that eviction. They're still responsible for rent. They're still responsible for late fees. And so their situation isn't necessarily going away, but we are finding people still calling on the call line that hadn't heard of any of the help. They hadn't heard of any of the moratoriums, any of the ways to kind of handle a situation. And so we're not out of the woods by any means at all, but it could have been a whole lot worse. So I would definitely say that.
And I would just also add, and I think we've had around 160 evictions that have been here in Tippecanoe County since the window was open and then reclosed. But I will also say that we have, reading the notes, but we actually have seen some folks that have been able to communicate with their landlords that are very interested in participating, because we do understand that landlords need their rental, their income. We totally understand that. And so if we can work with the tenants and connecting them to the right resources, and by utilizing the state rental assistance program, that's all been a little bit challenging. We've never done this before as a state, as a country, quite frankly. And so we've certainly had some hiccups, but we've done also some landlord outreach to say, listen, give us a second. We're working on things as a state, as a country, things are happening. And so for landlords that were interested, they were very appreciative of the information that we were able to share with them, so that then they were able to share with their tenants. Because I'm not surprised, Adam, when you said that you've got people that they didn't know. They show up and they're getting evicted and they didn't know about the resources. So that's another disconnect that we really need to work on.
On this, I did not know. I still remember a student coming into the psych clinic years ago. This was 2 months after we'd landed on the moon. He saw an old exponent, and the student said, "Oh, I didn't know we landed on the moon." If they don't know that, no surprise, Adam. I try to
a lot of publicity on that, Betty. That's the problem. It was a publicity problem.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Another question that has come about, housing for intellectually and developmentally disabled in the community. How does that flow? What kinds of issues are in that? How do you work with that?
I could say a couple things about this. There are some general supports for that particular group, particularly if they're lower income. But I think folks from that community, Wabash Center and others that work directly with the families of folks in that situation, they would probably tell you that more supports are needed. In general, we have a lot of affordable housing solutions, but we have a need for handicap accessible units, and there are certain government supports for new projects that could do that for low income folks. And I haven't seen as many of those projects proposed or initiated. So I don't have those numbers in front of me, but by and large, the community addresses that just through the normal supports. But my sense of it is there's probably room to do more targeted work in that area.
Mm-hmm. Comments from anybody else on that?
Well, I think there's a need to do more affordable housing. Totally. And our organization, I didn't mention, we developed the Jeff Center on 9th Street, and we are getting ready to do, or starting to do, another senior project right beside that on one of those parking lots, because there's a huge need for affordable senior housing in this community. And that's another way that we prevent homelessness. And, that'll be a new construction, so everything in there will be handicapped accessible. But I think just overall, we haven't done any building for, not a lot of building lately, and certainly not a lot of affordable building. So I think overall there's a need for that, and that's something we probably need to look at as a community.
Does that affect you, Jennifer?
It does, absolutely, because we help people who are experiencing homelessness, no matter what their challenges are. And so whatever type of disabling condition they have, when housing is the barrier, then we have to help them find a housing solution that best meets their needs. And so no matter what that disabling condition looks like, there is a need for additional housing with all kinds of supports that are necessary in order to keep people in their housing. And of course, people that do not have sustainable income. I just wanted to share that one of the new data points that I have for someone in Tippecanoe County to actually, wait a second, is this Tippecanoe County? For Indiana, sorry, this is for Indiana. For someone to actually pay and afford their rent in Indiana is $16.32 an hour is what the wage they would need to make. And that is much higher than most of the people that we work with. That's much higher than what they make, because the federal minimum wage is still $7.25. So we have a huge disparity in income versus expense for their housing costs. So it's a problem.
I think that's a nice segue. Another question that was asked is, what does the future look like to you in this whole area? Homeless, housing, what's down the road for the community?
If I could start that off, I want to echo the need for affordable housing. And, we have had kind of a lull in building that hopefully will be remedied. But it does matter the kind of affordable housing that we do. I don't believe that we need more warehousing, which would be building, 500, 600 units and saying to everyone, good luck to you all. But I think we need targeted and manageable complexes, or building new construction being done, or significant rehab that could help folks with particular situations. That I look at what they're doing on Area 4 is doing at H38, and the new project that they did in partnership with the state of Indiana, where they're doing workforce housing for folks in a particular income range. And those 36 families or so are primed and connected to resources to do the next thing. And I'd love to see more of those type of projects where we do address affordable housing needs, but we find the particular population, or we attach services or access to services and infrastructure that could really help those families not just survive but thrive. And I really think we need more of that. And I think that's rental. There probably are some home ownership opportunities we should be looking at now that people, the economy hopefully is at some point on the complete rebound. That is one thing about our community, Betty, referring to your question earlier. We do have a very diverse economy here in our community. That means we weather all sorts of economic storms that other communities can't really handle. But then we have to match that up with, if our families are going to thrive, or if people are attracted to our community to work and to fill the jobs, we need to have the housing opportunities available for them so that we can continue to grow. And we have a need for affordable housing.
And I think one of the things that, when you're talking about, growing in employment, employers look for whether or not their employees can buy a house in that economy. And so I think there is a need for affordable homeownership opportunities too. Often we can get someone to purchase a home and they don't pay as much as they were paying in rent. And it's just, getting them ready to do that, getting their credit at a situation where, they can go to a conventional lender and getting, there's usually down payment assistance available, but it's around the education and making them understand, quite honestly, that it could happen for them. A lot of people think it can't. And they're always surprised then when they do buy their house. So I think that's a thing that we need to think about too in this community.
Jennifer, any comment on that?
Sure. So when I think about what needs to happen going forward, I believe we need a federal response to make sure that no person experiences homelessness because they're not able to afford housing. And so that is not something we can do here locally. We certainly have landlords that want to, they have a rent to charge, and we have tenants that are not able to pay that amount of rent. And so only when a federal subsidy can be brought along to help bridge that gap, what's in between those two things, that's the only way people will actually be able to sustain their housing. We simply don't have enough of that. And so I'm hoping we are seeing things on a federal level for people talking about the need for housing, and that maybe it's a thing we should do because people are not able to thrive and do better. They're not able to get connected to the healthcare they need. Healthcare and housing are hand in hand. And so when we don't provide for housing for someone, their health completely deteriorates. And so I'm hoping that that's another silver lining of COVID. Again, this has kind of brought the attention of homelessness to people that maybe have some bigger purse strings than I or the state of Indiana, and that they can really think about this being a social determinant of healthcare, that we really need to do better with housing, the most basic need we have.
It's certainly, my logic is that it certainly would be less expensive in the long run to provide these basic human services than to have to do the correction and the repair when it's all fallen apart.
And I agree. And I think there's a certain percentage of people that absolutely agree with you. But there is another group of persons that apparently do not agree with us. And so that's very unfortunate. And it does take a community, it takes a village, and it really takes a federal response to kind of make some sweeping, not an accusation, but a sweeping conversation to really change the perception that people currently have about people that are not able to afford housing. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it sounds like all of us as good citizens need to stay in touch with what's going on and ready to step up and be involved if we need to have a voice for those who don't have a voice.
I think that's absolutely the best thing that, I know that you have the three of us, people kind of get tired of hearing us talk about it. So, the rest of the community needs to be talking about it too. I think you're so right, Betty, and thank you for bringing that up.
And if they get tired of talking with you, one way of silencing you is to get busy and do something
Yeah.
So they don't have to hear that
They're
so
not
much.
hearing anymore.
It's so very logical.
There you go.
The three of us pledged to never talk about this again when it's all solved.
When it's all solved, there you go.
Yeah, right. And I have an 8-ball that I use for solving other problems.
Okay.
So
Sometimes I feel like that's what I have too.
it's as logical as some of the other things we hear.
Yes.
You know, one of the questions that was asked of this group is, what can others do to help to improve the current status? And I think we touched on that just a little bit, staying informed, being willing to step up and make a statement, to write a letter, to support some of the efforts that you all are making. Anything else that you would want to point out that's important for us as citizens of this community to do?
I certainly would just say that we need you to be part of the solution, that there are things, even small things, that every person can do. We had a child just 2 weeks ago that made little hygiene kits and brought them over, all the way up to people that own businesses. They're bringing food here to serve people. There are various opportunities for people to get involved with those who are experiencing homelessness. And I welcome people to come here and meet people, meet our guests. See who is using this space, especially before there's any judgment, quite frankly. So come on in and check out what we do here and how we help people that really need our help. There's lots of opportunities. And the United Way has a website that actually has all their volunteer opportunities. That's all on it's all on their website.
Because there also are opportunities for volunteering that you can do remotely. But, one of the things that's so valuable is, I'm small. I have 4 staff people, including me. We don't have this huge marketing budget. So people helping us get the word out and helping the community understand the need of what we do here, it is so, so important. And anyone can tell their friends about it. So that's something everyone in the community can do.
Yeah, what I would add to that is there's a lot of, I don't know if that's just kind of the way things are today. There's just a lot of opinions out there just being thrown around seemingly without consequence. But let me tell you, when you spread the word about what we're trying to do locally or what an agency is doing right, we have a lot of good groups in town doing good things. And we need to be spreading the word about it and sharing those stories. Homestead, LTHC, members of the Homeless Prevention and Intervention Network, there's a lot of great organizations there to support both financially with your volunteer time, but even just spreading the good word. We really need to do a good job of letting everyone understand how fortunate we are to have the system that we do, to have the partners that we do, because it is not like this in other parts of the state. You hate to point fingers at who I'm thinking of when I say that, but there are other communities our size that really struggle with getting their services to address true need and to be innovative, to think proactively, think to the future, solve problems maybe even before they start. Those kind of things happen here regularly, and we just take it for granted. So just really encourage everyone to, even being a cheerleader goes a long way, because there are very few people doing that right now.
Yeah, we do get kind of whiny, and that's that's therapeutic up to a point, but that doesn't get the job done. So, and I think characteristic of our community for years has been people deciding what's needed, getting a group of people together, coming up with a plan, and then trying to march forward with that. And important for us to remember that that's part of our heritage here. It is a village, and it doesn't take care of itself. I was thinking that, back in March, when the state of Indiana came forward with this in response to COVID, stay home, stay safe. And, that's so logical. That makes sense to lots of us. But what it did to you, if you don't have a home, then you don't have that place to go and be safe.
Betty, let me just touch on that for a second, because, we moved into this new facility in January. We expanded our programming to 24/7 in February, and then COVID started in March. So to say we have been thrown into the deep end would be an understatement. But I will also tell you that we have literally saved lives by being in this facility. We would not have been able to we've remained open every day because we are absolutely an essential service provider. And just like you said, when there was the stay-at-home order, people have no homes. And so we must stay open. We had to stay here. And so we've had all kinds of interesting things that have been happening since March. But in the big picture, we have not lost one of our guests due to COVID. And so we are very proud of that. We've had several of our guests have tested positive. But we also know that this is a population of people that is very at high risk because of their poor health, and they have no housing. And so we are very, very proud of the partnership that we have with our local health department, with the city, with how we can make very quick reactions and get people tested quickly, get them in isolation shelters. We're paying for hotels. Like, we've got a lot of different things that are going on. So that's been a real whirlwind, this COVID action here.
And that's the kind of thing that deserves cheerleading.
Or cocktails, either one.
Oh, right. And pom-poms and the whole business.
Thank you, Betty. We'll stick with pom-poms.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we could put together a pretty good celebration. We're almost to the end of our time. Is there any kind of final comment any one of you would like to make before we sign off?
I just want to thank United Way, Betty, for you for doing this. This has been great to get our story out. As I said, a lot of people still don't even know we're here, even though we've been around for over 35 years. And I just really appreciate the opportunity always to talk about our families, because there's just so many families in this community just holding on by a shoestring. And, it's, I don't know who's on this call, but it could be your employees, and it's irregardless of what you pay them. Unfortunately, people spend what they earn. And, we just need to be considerate of all those people and help give a helping hand wherever we can, be on committees, be on boards, be cheerleaders, do whatever you can to help us. Throw money at us, that's fine too.
You'll find a good use for it. And I think, Marie, we do have to believe most people are doing the best they can.
Yes.
They may not understand everything, but with what they do know, they're doing the very best they can.
Thank you. I believe that too, Patty.
Adam, Jennifer, anything to?
I could say something, and Jennifer, you could conclude it. I think I speak for all three of us. If there's someone watching the presentation or on the call, and you've got a thought on, some particular problem you'd like to dig in a little bit more on, or wanted to find out more information about, or wanted to volunteer or get dig deeper, any of the three of us could point you in the right direction. If it's not with the things that we're doing directly, we know the network well enough to connect you to someone that's right up your alley. And this would not be the time to sit back. This is the time to kind of grab that thing that you've been chewing on to whatever change that you'd like to bring to the community, or whatever thing you want to address. Someone will partner with you to do it. So we'd love to connect you to it.
And I think somebody a little earlier mentioned that United Way does have somebody who works with volunteers, where are needs in the community. So, if they're timid about talking with you, Adam, for heaven's sake, they could call United Way and get some additional information. Lots of ways to work into that. Jennifer, for you?
And I know that we're wrapping up, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the critical importance of the United Way. So the funding that we receive from the United Way, from the community, really provides very critical dollars here for LTHC. As Marie mentioned earlier, the federal funding that's available that some of us receive, there's lots and lots of regulations. And so I really can't thank United Way and the donors enough for their support, because they are literally providing critical funding to help save lives. So as a United Way donor myself, I'm glad to be part of that, and I'm also a Vanguard. I thank all of the United Way donors for what they do, and the United Way staff for being part of critical conversations in our community as well. So thank you.
If all the Vanguard folks who are listening or will see this, the video of this afterwards, hear it loud and clear. People know you make a difference. We don't always know kind of how your funds, my funds, fit into the community, but we know there are ways to use them that makes a difference. So when you, again, see that statement from Indiana, stay home, stay safe, remember how complicated that is for some of our citizens. And we're all in this together. So thank you for being with us. And don't forget, there's another program next week on some of the basic services. I hope you will join at that time. Thank you so much. And thank you to the three of you. You're
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you, Betty.
And 80 years, man. Thank you all.
Bye.